I think a lot of people don't get is that millions of people watch these movies. These movies, remember Christmas Prince last year, how much press it got?
Yeah.
And that thing was all over the place. And so
Yeah,
these
that was pretty
movies,
wild.
they aren't going anywhere. They're becoming a factory. They're making a lot of them. And they're kind of getting an audience. I think they're starting to really gain steam. I don't think they're going anywhere. So I think knowing about them.
Right, and they've always been there.
Yeah.
I think the conceit of these movies, at least the business value, right, is the idea that you're marketing Christmas or whatever holiday you subscribe to based on nostalgia. All of our memories about the holidays are from previous holidays. They're with our families. They're with the memories that we have watching these movies with our families. So to retread on any plots or conventions is like completely accepted and embraced. So we'll get 1,000 more Christmas switches, 1,000 more Santa Claus movies. That's just the way it's going to work. And it's like, whatever, fine.
They shoot these movies in 3 weeks. They knock them out really quick. A lot of them are shot a lot of them are shot in Canada. There's one shot in Louisiana. They shoot in major hubs. Some shoot in Utah. So there's a basic area of where they shoot most of these movies. And I mean, you recognize certain homes. So it's just a big business churning stuff out. I did watch one the other day where they, instead of snow, they were using white blankets. We caught that. That wasn't very cool.
Wow.
But I do think Hudgens crushes that though. She's, as far as actors go, she had fun with it, I think.
Yeah, it looked like she had fun. I'm not one of her biggest fans as an actor, but yeah, she does the job.
She was good.
She's fine. That fake accent. Come on now.
But that is a fake accent because it was a character doing a fake accent.
No, I know that, but even before she makes the switch or whatever, as the royalty person.
Yeah, but she's from Stankonia or something, and when you watch these movies, any foreign European country, they all have British accents. So maybe that's just the way they speak in this fictional country that she's from.
I'm willing to suspend my disbelief. That's fine. What's wild is that back when she was at the height of her, High School Musical fame, I remember people even then were like, oh yeah, she's totally got that Catwoman look. And we're parading for her to become the new Catwoman, which, is kind of silly in my opinion. But she does have that, exotic look. I think that'd be...
Spring Breakers. She's gangster in Spring Breakers.
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh, she was in that, wasn't she?
She's a gangster in that movie. And that's where
I remember the Selena Gomez, and yeah, I don't remember her in that one.
That's where I'm from, St. Pete. But all right, so let's go back to Batman Returns. We just went off on those. Let's pretend that was a listener question that we answered. And so thank you, one of our listeners from, you know what I learned is, Nambia? We're pretty highly ranked amongst their TV and film podcasts. So thank you guys Namibia.
Yeah, something
Namibia.
Like that.
So thank you guys. Oh man, I just butchered it. Hopefully I didn't lose our audience. I'm sorry guys. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. But yeah, we'll get back to Batman Returns. So yeah, I mean, I kind of hijacked that because you were talking about what kind of movies do you watch, or kind of it takes place during Christmas, but it's not really a Christmas movie. Were you kind of getting on that wavelength?
I mean to say, I actually would argue that it is fully intended to be a Christmas movie. I would only argue that it's not in the traditional sense for convention's sake, right? And never mind the fact that it's not a happy movie. But again, back to my point, it ends pretty sad. Nobody wins. Penguin dies. Batman failed to save him. He failed to save Catwoman. Selena, excuse me. Max Schreck is dead. He's not brought to justice. That's not really justice at all. So you're sort of leaving the theater, and I think that's probably the problem a lot of people had with this movie, the ones that don't like it. You don't really have a victory, right? The hero doesn't save the day. He saves the kids. But, I mean, does anybody really want to see kids killed on Christmas?
Getting dumped in toxic.
I'm all for a dark Batman, but I don't know if I'm ready for that.
So that's this is interesting. So you really do leave the movie on a downer. Now I know this is a completely random aside, but I'm gonna do it. I went and watched Bohemian Rhapsody and I enjoyed it, but it's basically just a biopic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but it does seem like a very paint by numbers biopic.
It absolutely is, but it ends with the 20-minute Live Aid performance. So when you leave,
because that's the only way you end that. Yeah.
So when you leave and the music plays at the end, there's some fun songs and you're singing along and you see all the pictures of the band and Rami Malek really crushes that performance and you just hear it's basically like a recreation of the concert. And so you just leave on a high.
Oh,
You're like,
sure.
oh man, like that movie was great, but it's a stock biopic
Yeah.
with very funky editing, but it leaves you on a high. This movie, you're watching Batman and you're like, what?
It's kind of funny too because, again, it's not Bohemian Rhapsody. It's not, Mamma Mia. You're not going out the theater singing along to some high or songs that were in the movie. But this movie ends very emotionally for me, that I enjoy it, that I am very satisfied. I love the fact that when Bruce is in the car with Alfred, he finds the cat in the alley and he thinks he catches a glimpse of Selina, and it's just so melancholy. There's a point at which it's literally when he bends down and picks up the cat, and the music, violins, the strings just sort of swell, and he walks back to that car and he's just so resigned that he's lost her. And, Alfred, he just, come what may, Merry Christmas, Mr. Wayne. And they just drive off. And of course, you've got that sort of cookie at the end where the stunt double for Michelle Pfeiffer shows up, and it's like, oh, she might be back. But that never, of course, came to be, unfortunately. Or not. Maybe it was better that way. And I just love the way it ends because it's so epic in its own way. It's not epic in a way that leaves you cheering. It's epic in a way that's like emotionally profound, in a way that I think the first movie was in different ways. Because in the first movie, right, he wins and he beats the Joker, he's dead, and you've got the announcement of the signal, which everybody's waiting for because you haven't seen it yet. And you make this before you even get to the tower sequence. Vicky Vale is waiting for him, and she gets in the car with Alfred, and she's not surprised that he'll be late. But yeah, that march, that reprise, before that hits, you get this sort of thunderous march, and you see Batman sort of towering over the city with the bat signal. And I think both movies end in ways that are very like satisfying for me. And I think they tried to emulate that, right, in Batman Forever with this sort of ridiculous, the bat signal is facing the camera and they're sort of running toward the camera, right, where it's like, we'll be back, maybe. I don't know. It just felt very staged and phony. But yeah, just the way the movie ends, I think Batman Returns, it's sad and profound, but it doesn't, I don't know, it's not depressing in a bad way. It feels like this sort of big, warm blanket that envelops you and says it's okay to be sad sometimes. Like, that's the movie for me, as ridiculous as it is.
It's a compliment to Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton as well. Just, I mean, they don't really have many scenes together, but you just like them together for some reason. And I really
they're magnetic, yeah.
I love that scene where, like, can you believe that they said Catwoman was 140 pounds? And then he was like,
oh, right.
And then he says, "Oh, can you?"
Batman blows it.
Yeah, like, what do you mean? There would have been a lot more property damage. So I like that they weren't even listening to each other, but then they had that scene.
Their psychoses are always front and center, yeah. And even when they have their outfits on, right, like that kiss under the mistletoe is just so freakishly, it's just so psychosexual. It's wild.
I love that line though when she says, it's gonna be a dark time in the cold city. That's one of my. I think that's my favorite line reading in this. Isn't that what she says?
I'm probably gonna get it wrong, but I think it's gonna be a hot town in the cold. It's gonna be a hot time in the cold town tonight, maybe.
And then he looks at her and goes, "You got a dark side."
Yeah, he says it literally like that, like as aloof as anybody else would. He doesn't even have that sort of Christian Bale suave, debonair persona, right? And that's what I love about those movies, is that Keaton totally went all in on this, like, completely neurotic, unassuming Batman. He's not this square-jawed, macho motherfucker. He's a pretty fucking weird guy in real life.
They have their dinner scene, and they're way across from each other in the first one, Kim Basinger and him. He's just like a squirrely dude. Yeah, he is. And even in this one, doesn't he make mention of Ted Bundy, Norman Bates on the couch? He's just like afraid of being taken as a psycho, and he's like, yeah, you kind of are. Because they're talking about duality, right?
Yeah, well, they're talking about letting people in, right? And he was mentioning that things didn't quite work out with Vicky, and she goes ice skater. Oh, yeah.
There's two, ice skater or something else. Did she get two options?
Yeah. So that scene is wonderful, and obviously they get intimate, and they're sort of like discovering each other's battle scars, and that's also a really compelling point of that bit.
And when they have to leave, I like that Catwoman tells Alfred, she's like, "Can you just tell him a dirty limerick?" Yeah,
who even says like, and what does he say? He goes, "One is just sprung to mind."
I love that scene.
And I love Michael Gough in the role of Alfred, and I think most people would probably take their Michael Caine, but
No,
he was always my Alfred.
no, I almost busted out my Michael Caine accent, but I'm not going to do
It's
it.
okay. We already did our Chris Walken, so you're entitled. That's okay.
It's horrible. But the audio, the podcast, people have heard a lot of my Michael Caine, so I'm not going to do it. It's really bad.
Well, isn't the cheat to it is to say his name, but don't say Michael Caine. You say my, as in possessive, cocaine, the drug.
My
so you just go,
cocaine. Whoa.
yeah, that's literally it. That's all you gotta do.
Michael Caine. No, I can't do it long though. So I always should. No, I'm not gonna do it because we don't.
All right, we'll spare the listeners then.
But
yeah.
I really like him in this movie too because he's just working with him. Like I love watching him at the computer screens. Alfred in this, he's just this older dude crushing this computer.
Oh my
work.
gosh, you're right. We didn't even touch on the fact that they fuck Penguin shit up
Yeah,
with the CD player mix over the intercoms and shit. Yeah, it's like, haha, motherfucker. Yeah, I mean, it's only slightly dated now, but yeah, it's a kind of a neat scene because there's often complaints, right, about Batman not being a detective, not using his intellect, but that's I would say that fits pretty squarely in what Batman would do. He uses his tech savvy to sort of thwart villains.
Yeah, and then I mean, Joker gets lit up and he gets hit by eggs and tomatoes and lettuce.
Oh, Penguin, you mean? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Penguin. That's what I meant, not Joker.
Yeah.
I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah, no, it's a great scene, and you mentioned before, like the part where Penguin hijacks the Batmobile is pretty amusing too, and I have to imagine the production for that was pretty intensive. And how cool! I mean, like again, the movie is just over the top ridiculous, so you're kind of maybe expecting it, maybe I wasn't, but just that sequence, right, where he's being tailed by the cops. And he's caused enough damage already, so you're already feeling really anxious. But he's got that sort of very small alley exit route, and you're like, how's he going to get out of this one? And sure enough, being Batman, he's thought of everything, and he's engineered this car to completely convert into a missile, and just sort of sneaks right it through that crevice. I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then his car flips up and spins itself around in this one.
Well, when does that happen?
That thing comes down from the middle of it and then lifts it up and then it spins it around and then drops it.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the beginning. Okay, so the pivot. Yeah. Well, I guess the Batmobile doesn't look like it takes 3-point turns too easily, so that came in handy for, of course, setting the guy with the blowtorch on fire. He was like, "Fuck you! Here's my fireball."
He lit that dude up.
Yeah, he literally lit him up.
It's
a great scene. I mean, you can pretend like, oh, Batman doesn't kill or whatever, and that's fine, but it's still a cool scene.
Can I ask you a question about comic book movies?
Yeah.
So you love a comic, right? You love one certain comic. They make a movie that isn't what you want.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I think they're similar to what I sort of broadcasted in my Halloween review / rant, and I think a lot of people have problems when it comes to their established headcanon. And that's the key word, right? Your headcanon, because that even varies from comic to comic. And I'll try to make this as short as possible. But comics have such terrible time with continuity. It's so difficult, especially a character that's, endured for 80 years, 75, 80 years. So that has never been a problem for me. The story is everything. I'm here for a story. If there are inconsistencies, damn them, whatever. So when we're talking about something not fitting from page to screen, I'm pretty lenient with that kind of thing. And in this case, I think you're right to pose that question, because I feel like it's almost the ultimate litmus test, whether that's Batman killing or the Joker, or excuse me, the Penguin's origin, which really doesn't fit in any way with the comic. And even Catwoman, which had an amazing revisionist origin. She was, I believe, always just sort of a cat burglar type. I mean, even in her first appearance in Batman 1, she sort of was established already as a thief, and it wasn't this sort of pitiful woman who learns empowerment, right, in her primal side. It was sort of it was something, I don't want to say that Burton and company came up with that, but that's something that definitely wasn't firmly established in the comic lore. So I appreciate these digressions, I think, and we're getting a lot of that talk now with this Netflix thing with Cowboy Bebop and anime and all these other types of pop